Hey there, I'm Michael Giblin with Fiddlershop.com, and today we're talking about Thomastik and Felt dominant violin strings. Woo, woo. So these are considered basically the reference string. I'm arming the laser. Because they've been around forever, it seems like. I mean, I played them when I was this tall? No, I was 4 when I started and I had dominance. So a lot of people know dominance. It's a great place to start. If you're new to playing the violin and you have no idea where to start, usually people recommend dominance, and I would too. It's a great place to start. They're a very neutral string. They don't have a lot of discoloration. They're not especially warm. They're not especially bright. There's a lot of charts floating around the internet of these like X and Y axis and all these like strings placed all over the place. And usually dominants are like square in the middle. They're just like kind of good at everything. They're very versatile. They're very flexible. In terms of like sound that you can generate, they're not, they're in a way, they're nothing extremely special, but there's a phrase I'm looking for. It's like they're the least offensive. Maybe that's sort of a pessimistic way of talking about strings, but they are. They're just very accurate and very kind of are nothing. And I guess it's great that they're priced very modestly. They're $50, which is not extremely expensive, but it's also not the cheapest string. So they're very good strings. What I'm gonna do is try to prove it to you. I'm gonna play a little bit of for you on this. I have the Fiddlerman Artist, and this is the same instrument I've been using for all the string videos, and the Holstein 3-star bows. Both of those, there's links in the description box below. Obviously, you can find them on Fiddlershop.com. The point is that this is not the world's most expensive violin, and so it gives you a very good idea of what sound you can expect on your instrument. And then I've got a little bit of a graph. It's gonna get a little nerdy here, so hang on. Then I'm gonna try to show you what it sounds like, the frequencies that we hear, how we perceive them, because it can't all be proved sort of scientifically. Not that I love science or anything like that. I play the violin, come on. So, here we go. Here comes the dominance. Hopefully this is still tuned at A440. Okay, so yeah, they're very clean, very clear. Not the warmest or deepest or richest sound ever, but it's the great projection. A lot of things that I really like. They really make this violin. They work very well for this instrument. They're not really only for students. There are lots of professionals that play dominance too. So just because they're sort of in the mid-range price, doesn't mean that you can't use them. And every instrument's gonna be different. Every violin needs maybe some correction or doubling down on whichever way it leans. If you have a dark violin, maybe you wanna push it darker, and maybe if you have a dark violin, you want something to brighten up, in which that's a good instance where dominance would be great. If you have a dark instrument and you'd like something a little brighter, a little more focused, dominance would be a great thing. I'm going to show you the frequency analysis of just the A string by itself. right, welcome to Physics is Fun with Michael O'Giblin. So I'm not an expert about this, but I wanted to show that all these things that we're hearing in the way we describe things, the way they sound, you can see them visually, and I think it's interesting to see things like this. So this is, of course, the Harmonic Series, the Overtones series. Maybe you might have heard about this in theory class. Here it is in real life. I'm using Adobe Audition. It has this really cool view. There's another way I'll show you maybe later of ways looking at it, but I think this is a cool way to see it. So the bottom line, of course, I was just playing A. This is A440. You can see on the right-hand side, these are measured in hertz. It's the number of waves. I don't want to get into all that stuff. Basically, so the bottom line is our fundamental pitch. This is A440. And then so in the next overtone is an octave above that, 880, and then a fifth above that, 1318, et cetera, et cetera. It goes all the way up, like even to, you know, about 20,000 hertz. That's sort of the upper limit of our perceivable sound. I think this is cool. You never really knew that you were hearing all these different pitches at the same time. So what does it mean? Obviously, it's hard to really look at this chart and say, oh, clearly you can see that because you can see all the 5 overtones on the dominants, that clearly it's the most accurate representation of what a violin should sound like. And so therefore they should be the reference. Just as it's very subtle when we hear the differences, I think looking at it, it also makes sense that they're very subtle differences or very different opinions that we have from looking at charts like this. I'm going to show you, this of course was the A that I played on the dominants. I'm going to show you another string. I'm going to show you the Kaplan Amos just for comparison's sakes and just for fun. So now that I've got them side by side, it is interesting to see a little bit of differences, like, oh, maybe it looks like on the dominants, they're a little more resonant because when I let go of the string, the taper, it tapers off very nicely. I really like sort of that like flame look on the dominant side, whereas on the Kaplan Amo side, it just looks like it kind of drops off. But of course, there's a whole host of reasons why that could be happening because I'm a human and I didn't play them exactly the same way, or maybe I was 4 inches farther away when I played the Kaplan Amos, and so they don't sound as clearly, or you don't see the frequencies as brightly, or maybe I rotated the bow hair like 5 degrees, and so there could be lots of reasons why they don't look identical. But I still think it's interesting to see. I think if you held a gun to my head and said you have to say something about why the dominants sound different than the Kaplan Amos, I think possibly there's something about that the first 3, 4, 5 overtones all sound very clearly, and they seem much more equal than on the Kaplan Amos. I think there's something to that about the clarity of sound that we hear. I could see an argument for why the Kaplan Amos, maybe they sound warmer because you only hear more of the fundamental pitch and you don't really hear so many of those overtones as clearly as the other ones. Who knows? And by that, I do mean, who knows? If you happen to be an expert at reading these charts and can say, oh yeah, you should look at this and you should look at that, I would love to hear what you have to say. In future string videos, I will show you more of the open strings because we don't just compare strings based on one string. So I realize that in hindsight, I should have done more string comparisons, and maybe I'll play some more. I'll show you what this chart looks like with playing some musical passages as well. So stay tuned for more fun with physics with Michael. Something I should point out real quick is that they do come in different tensions. This is the medium tension, and it's what I would recommend for like 99% of the people, 99% of the people and violinists out there. You don't really want to mess around with different tensions unless there's something wrong. Like there's something really wrong with your instrument. Light tension would be like if you have an old instrument and maybe it has some cracks or it wasn't repaired very well and you're nervous about like all that tension, the heavy tension on your violin. Maybe a lighter tension would make it would be safer, or because it's just not gonna, a lighter projection is not gonna, lighter tension is not going to project as well. So maybe it's going to be softer. If you have a really thick instrument that doesn't project very well and you want to boost your projection, maybe a heavy projection, the strong tension, I believe that's what they call stark, it would be something to look into. But really, for the most part, I always recommend people just stick with the medium tension. So that is, I think, all I have to say about dominants. They're a really great string. They're very modestly priced. They're a great place to start if you don't know what other strings to try if you're new to playing the violin. They're very clean, very clear, very accurate. But eventually, I think a lot of people use it as a reference point, and they say something, and it's great because then you can say, oh, I want something warmer than dominance, or I want something more powerful than dominance. It's a great thing. They're a great string set to try if you're not for sure what you want. So if you would like to pick up a set of dominant strings, you can of course find one in the link that's in the description box below. Let me know in the comments, do you still use dominants? Do you like them? If you use dominants, what did you, and then have switched, what did you switch to? Or if you switched from something before dominance and are now using dominance, why did you switch? So I would love to hear all your thoughts, especially if you can include some information about if your violin was darker and you wanted something brighter, did you use dominance from something else? So that kind of stuff is really helpful to know, and it's really interesting to read your comments. I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks for checking out this video. We'll see you at the next one.